Hi students, Mrs. Roberts here. We are going to do reaction 1 in our stoichiometry lab, which is sodium bicarbonate reacting with acetic acid, both aqueous solutions. Now, these both have much more common names. Sodium bicarbonate is much more commonly known as baking soda, and acetic acid is much more commonly known as vinegar, because vinegar is just an aqueous solution of acetic acid, so it's acetic acid and water mixed together. So I'm going to be using white vinegar as one of my reactants and baking soda as my other. So the first thing I need to do is I need to determine my mass of, let's do the Erlenmeyer flask first actually. So this is what we call an Erlenmeyer flask. It has this sort of triangular shape to it. I'll insert a picture of it here. Okay, so we're going to get the mass of this while empty because we're going to ultimately be weighing a solid within this, so I want to know what the mass of this is originally so we can subtract that off. So our mass of our Erlenmeyer flask is 119.72 grams. Again, 119.72 grams. Okay, so now I'm going to set this off to the side. I next want to determine the mass of sodium bicarbonate used in this reaction. So sodium bicarbonate, again, better known as baking soda. So I will insert a picture of the baking soda after I weigh it, but we should probably all be familiar with what that looks like. It's kind of like a fluffy white powder. So the first thing I do before I put anything on here, which I forgot to do, so let me dispose of this one, is I need to tare the mass of the weighing paper, which means I want to place this on the balance so that I have a bit of a protection on the balance, and I'm going to hit the 0 button, which essentially ignores the mass of the paper, and now I'm only weighing the mass of the baking soda. So I'm going for about 2 grams here, but I'll let you know the exact mass in just a moment. Okay, our mass is 2.01 grams, so your baking soda mass or sodium bicarbonate mass is 2.01 grams. So I'm now going to take that 2.01 grams of this solid and put that into my Erlenmeyer flask. Okay. And I'll insert a picture here as well so you can see what this looks like before we react it. Okay, so now I want this to be an aqueous solution, so I'm going to put some water in here to dissolve all of our baking soda. Now I'm going to go for about 15 milliliters. Doesn't have to be super exact because we're just trying to make sure all of the baking soda dissolves. So we have about 15 milliliters of water in here. And I'm going to give that a swirl just to make sure we can get this dissolved. Now, if you're thinking ahead a little bit, we're mixing baking soda ultimately with vinegar. So if you are thinking ahead to, middle school volcano science fair projects, you know that we're going to get lots of fizzing and sort of a simulated explosion. But what we really have happening is this particular reaction is what we call a gas forming reaction. So we'll be forming an aqueous product, which is actually the one that we're going to be focused in on, but you'll also be producing 2 gases because you'll have a product that spontaneously decomposes to form water and carbon dioxide. So there is my sodium bicarbonate solution. So I'm going to deal with that. I'm going to set my balance off to the side here. And now I'm going to add about 60 milliliters of vinegar to that. Now, vinegar in this particular case is our excess reactant, which means this is the one that we have plenty of to ensure that all of our limiting reactant, the sodium bicarbonate, reacts. So I don't need to be super precise with my vinegar measurement because it is the excess one. So I wanted 60, I have about 62.5 milliliters, totally fine. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to very carefully mix my vinegar with my sodium bicarbonate solution. I do not want this to be done all at once or it will explode, which is obviously a problem. So I am going to have a close-up here while I mix them so you can see this, and then we'll come back to the full screen. Okay, I'm gonna add this very slowly. Notice you'll see lots and lots of fizzing, but we do wanna let that sort of taper out a bit before I add any more to ensure we don't lose any of our products by overflowing. Okay, we see those bubbles, that's signifying a gas being formed, but we're also forming a new solid that is dissolving and therefore aqueous, and that's the one we're going to investigate. So I'm going to keep adding this slowly and then speed this up. Okay, at this point I was swirling just to ensure that our solution did mix fully, on all of our reactants mixed fully. But you'll notice as I'm swirling, I'm really not getting too many more bubbles at this point, which means our gas has been pretty much fully produced, which means our reaction is nearing completion. So what I have left here at this point is an aqueous solution of a different product. This would be an aqueous solution of sodium acetate. And now what I want to do is get that sodium acetate back to solid form so that I can now precipitate it, excuse me. So to do that, I'm gonna help this along a little bit. I could let this sit under a heat lamp, but that's gonna take a really long time. So I'm gonna use a hot plate to evaporate all of the water and then be left with our solid in the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to take my aqueous sodium acetate solution and I'm going to put that on this hot plate. Now I've turned this to about 5, so I didn't want to turn it too high because I don't want to rapidly boil the water away. If I rapidly boil the water away, it'll start to spatter, which means I might potentially lose some mass coming out of the top, which would be really bad. So I'm just going to leave this on here. I'll stop the video. We don't need to watch water boil, not too terribly exciting. And I will restart the video once we have our solid left in the bottom. Hi students, okay, so I have heated this on the hot plate and evaporated all of the water. You just saw a picture, or I will insert a picture here of what this looks like. And now all I need to do is weigh this. So I have my balance here. We already knew the mass of the empty Erlenmeyer flask. Now I have the flask plus the sodium acetate, and my mass here is 121.01 grams. So 121.01 grams. At this point, you should now be able to complete all of the calculations for this section. Good luck!